Chapter 1894, Breakthrough, 3, What surprised Jiang Xiaobai even more was. The aura surrounding Yi Qingtang hadn't dissipated even after her first breakthrough. She seemed to have another breakthrough coming. Yi Qingtang was unconscious for quite some time, and when she finally woke up, she opened her eyes to see little white tiger and Jiang Xiaobai both asleep beside her. The youth's face was pale, and though he was asleep, he seemed to be troubled by something, having furrowed brows even during his rest. When Yi Qingtang wanted to sit up, she felt as though her bones had been broken and healed. She felt sore all over, even her clothes were soaking wet, as though she had just come out of a pool of water. What happened? It took her some effort to sit up. Though she was sore all over and the pain was quite unbearable, she felt strangely rejuvenated. Awakened by her movement, Jiang Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes. When he saw that Yi Qingtang could sit up, there was a glint of excitement in his eyes as he stood up in one swift movement. "Sister Qing, you're finally awake." Yi Qingtang nodded. "How long was I asleep?" "Almost 2 weeks, Jiang Xiaobai replied. "Fuck. Was she a pig?" Yi Qingtang was dumbstruck. Her last memories stopped when they left the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm with Bailey Shi. She seemed to have no existing memories of anything after that. All she could remember was the gleaming spots as well as the warm blue lights that surrounded her. "Sister Qing, I'll get you something to eat." When Jiang Xiaobai saw that Yi Qingtang was finally awake, he was delighted. Without her even mentioning anything, he ran out to get some food for her. Although it had been 2 weeks, Yi Qingtang didn't feel hungry, nor was she thirsty. It felt as though she had just taken a nap, and other than the soreness in her body, she didn't feel any abnormalities. She tried to get up from the bed, but when she pulled the blanket, she woke Little White Tiger up. Little White Tiger raised its eyes, looking at Yi Qingtang, and the corners of its mouth twitched. "What kind of expression is that? You're finally awake. I thought that you weren't going to wake up forever if you took any longer." Little White Tiger stretched its body before jumping off the bed. "I have no idea why I slept for so long either." Little White Tiger was stunned. "You have no idea?" Yi Qingtang nodded. Little White Tiger looked at Yi Qingtang with a suspicious gaze. "Does your body feel different?" Yi Qingtang couldn't understand why Little White Tiger asked her that. She lowered her eyes, only noticing her soaking wet clothes, and nothing else was different. She hadn't grown an extra hand. The corners of the Little White Tiger's mouth twitched again. "Check your powers." Yi Qingtang was perplexed, but she continued to check the powers within her body. She was completely astonished by the results. What the hell? What the heck happened? Chapter 1895, Massacre, 1. Yi Qingtang told Little White Tiger all about her time in the Crystal Palace and witnessing the fat catfish being demonized. In reality, she could not be sure if it was an actual demonization. "That's strange. Those spirit stones don't look like they could be produced by living bodies." Little White Tiger was puzzled. Even though it found those spirit stones and fat catfish very strange, there was no way they could resolve their doubts now since they had already left the mystic realm. "How do you feel now?" Little White Tiger looked at Yi Qingtang. Little White Tiger felt that Yi Qingtang's recent breakthrough might not be a good thing. Bloated, Yi Qingtang rubbed her chest. Having slept for so long, she had not consumed anything, not even a drop of water. Even so, she felt extremely bloated, as if a big ball of power was still stuck somewhere in her body, not fully absorbed yet. "Of course you are bloated. You absorbed so many spirit stones. I estimate that it will take some time before you completely digest all of that energy. The remaining power will probably just continue to linger in your body," Little White Tiger said. One bad thing about Yi Qingtang's sudden breakthrough was the risk of her exploding to death. It was a miracle that she had managed to hold on until now. Yi Qingtang believed that it was mainly thanks to the deity ocean, which slowed down her absorption of the power to a tolerable pace that allowed for her body to take it in. On top of that, her devouring bloodline probably also aided her assimilation of all that energy. Although she was unable to completely absorb everything all at once, she could slowly convert all that energy over time. This was considered good news to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang got out of bed and washed up, changing out of her dirty clothes. Since Jiang Xiaobai had also brought over some food for her, she finally felt somewhat refreshed. As they had lingered on this island for quite some time now, Bailey Shi and the rest had left long before. Yi Qingtang didn't plan to stay much longer on this island. Together with Jiang Xiaobai and Little White Tiger, they left the island of immortal footsteps and headed back to Taiyuan Valley. They traveled quickly, not stopping until they arrived at the borders of Taiyuan Valley. Sister Qing, what do you think Jiang Yisheng's reaction would be, if I told him that his beloved goddess is actually a man? A sly grin was on Jiang Xiaobai's face. Yi Qingtang remained silent. This young fellow had been rather quiet during the entire way home. So it was because he had been nursing such a thought. The two of them entered Taiyuan Valley with grins on their faces. But the front square of Taiyuan Valley was completely empty. There was no one around at all. It's already late morning, why is there no one out here training? Don't tell me, the elders are in a good mood and gave everyone a day off. Jiang Xiaobai scanned the surroundings, feeling very puzzled. On a typical day, the square would be filled with large groups of youngsters training from the moment the sun rose. The elders would also make frequent appearances to make sure no one skived. But it was all empty today. It was a rare sight. Sister Qing, you must be tired. Why don't you go back to rest first? I need to report to Elder Qian about some matters. Jiang Xiaobai gave Yi Qingtang a wave before scurrying off. Yi Qingtang was indeed feeling rather tired and made to return to her place to rest. She would then mull over what to do next. But as she walked past the square, Yi Qingtang felt that something just didn't feel right. It was too quiet in the entire Taiyuan Valley. Apart from the chirping of birds and scuttling of bugs across the ground, there were no other sounds at all. Yi Qingtang walked on for quite some time but didn't encounter a single person. It was strange. Chapter 1896, Massacre, 2, Where did everyone go? Little White Tiger also found it very strange. As Yi Qingtang pondered the situation, the faint scent of blood suddenly drifted into her nostrils. That scent had originated from the nearby practice hall. Almost instinctively, Yi Qingtang walked over to the hall. The main doors to the practice hall were closed. Standing outside, Yi Qingtang could not hear any sound at all. Stepping forward, Yi Qingtang pushed open the door. Her fingers made contact with something sticky on the handle. She pulled back her hand and saw that her fingers were stained a deep brown. That sticky stain gave off an intense smell of blood. Is this blood? Yi Qingtang was stunned. The door handles of the practice hall were deep brown and any bloodstains on the surface were not immediately noticeable. A sense of unease suddenly arose in Yi Qingtang's heart. She pushed open the door and was completely thunderstruck by what she saw inside. Nearly 100 rotting corpses were piled inside the large practice hall. Dried blood had pooled beneath those corpses and the smell of blood and rotting flesh permeated the entire space. What happened? Wide eyes took in the hellish scene before her. Those corpses were garbed in the uniform of the Jiang family disciples. Yi Qingtang surveyed the debris left behind in the practice hall. She gasped when her gaze landed on a familiar face. Jiang Yisheng had collapsed in a corner of the practice hall. A huge splatter of blood stained the wall behind him. He laid limply against the wall, that handsome face completely drained of all color. One arm was visibly broken while white maggots feasted upon his open flesh wounds. Meanwhile, he remained completely still, as if in a coma or dead. No. Jiang Yisheng was dead. And he had been dead for quite some time. Yi Qingtang felt like a huge rock was pressing down on her chest. It was so heavy that she couldn't breathe. Nearby, Jiang Yiran and Jiang Yanyan's bodies were piled together. The cheeky Jiang Yiran had his entire lower jaw ripped off. Left with only half a face, his eyes remained wide open in a vicious expression. One of Jiang Yanyan's hand was under Jiang Yiran's body. He had collapsed face down and a gaping hole could be seen on his upper back. The hole penetrated all the way through to the front of his chest. It looked like he was trying to lead Jiang Yiran away but failed to escape the nightmarish scene. What the hell happened? Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with shock. Everywhere she looked, the morbid scene of death met her eyes. All of these Taiyuan Valley youths were talented and gifted practitioners. Especially Jiang Yanyan. His abilities were on par with the most powerful practitioners of his generation in Central Mainland. What kind of people could kill all of them in such a terrible manner? Chapter 1897, Massacre, 3. She was now very worried about Jiang Shaobai. Without any hesitation, Yi Qingtang headed toward the Elder's Hall with little White Tiger in her arms. On the way there, she could see bloodstains and the fallen bodies of Jiang family disciples all around. Foreboding thoughts wreaked havoc on her mind and Yi Qingtang felt increasingly fretful. The back area of Taiyuan Valley was covered in blood. Those fallen disciples had encountered wretched deaths by the side of the road. Yi Qingtang charged toward the Elder's Hall. By the time she stood before the hall, her face had turned completely pale. Within the hall, Elder Qian and the others were all sitting in the middle. Elder Qian, Yi Qingtang's lips quivered as she stared at the elder sitting upon a chair, his head drooping downward. She could smell the thick, pungent scent of blood. Elder Qian was sitting there like how he always used to. But he was motionless and his arms had been nailed to the chair handles with two thick iron nails. His shoulders had been nailed to the back of the chair, while his legs were nailed to the legs of the chair. Blood had flowed out of Elder Qian's wounds and mingled with the blood of the other elders, staining the floor of the Elder's Hall into a dark crimson. Elder Qian was dead. The other elders in Taiyuan Valley were all dead. They had been nailed to their chairs. The whole scene was filled with blatant mockery and macabre satire. They looked like toys that could be manipulated however one pleased. Xiaobai, Yi Qingtang's unease grew deeper. She scurried about trying to find Jiang Xiaobai. In the end, she noticed a fresh set of footprints on the bloodied floor. The footprints were somewhat messy and they led right out of the hall. Yi Qingtang followed the footprints left behind by Jiang Xiaobai. She spotted him on the front square. Sister Qing. Jiang Xiaobai seemed to have felt Yi Qingtang's presence. He slowly turned around. There was a crooked smile on his usually cheerful face. Everyone seems to be dead. When she saw Jiang Xiaobai, Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he was fine. We cannot stay here. We must return to the Jiang family residence and inform the domain monarch. Yi Qingtang didn't know what had happened but instinctively knew that it was dangerous to linger here in Taiyuan Valley. He nodded before he paused and asked, Did you see Jiang Yisheng? Yi Qingtang was momentarily taken aback. She was silent for a moment before replying, Yes, I saw him, dead. Yi Qingtang nodded almost imperceptibly, the image of his rotting body flashing past her mind. A bitter smile twisted on Jiang Xiaobai's face. Should have expected that. Even Elder Qian and the others couldn't escape death. He is so lousy, how could he have survived? At this, Yi Qingtang didn't know how to reply. She was also feeling very upset at their deaths. Jiang Yisheng was the first Jiang family disciple I met after I arrived at Taiyuan Valley. He was very arrogant but became more humble after I gave him a good thrashing. Jiang Xiaobai's voice sounded a little hoarse. Yi Qingtang lowered her eyes. She had no idea how to comfort him. Sister Qing, let's go back to the Jiang family residence. The domain monarch will be able to find out who did this. I must avenge that silly Jiang Yisheng. Jiang Xiaobai took a deep breath. Yi Qingtang nodded again. She knew how terrible Jiang Xiaobai must be feeling. It was useless for her to say anything else now. This was a blood debt that could only be repaid by finding the identity of the murderers. Chapter 1898, Massacre. 4. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai immediately headed to the Jiang family residence. They wanted to report on everything they had seen at Taiyuan Valley. But when Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai arrived, they were completely thunderstruck by the scene that greeted them. The formerly grand and magnificent Jiang family residence was now a wreck. Bodies of several Jiang family guards were strewn outside the main gates of the residence. A deep sense of foreboding rose in Yi Qingtang's mind. Could it be even the Jiang family? A buzzing sound hounded Yi Qingtang's ears as images of Moe and Jiang Lang surfaced in her mind's eye. Before Jiang Shaobai could say a word, Yi Qingtang dashed into the Jiang family residence. It was a bloodbath within the compound. Blood was splattered everywhere as corpses covered nearly every inch of the ground. Yi Qingtang quickly scanned through all the bodies, terrified that she might recognize a familiar face. Jiang Shaobai followed her in. His face turned completely pallid at the sight. The pair decided to split up to see what they could find in the compound. As Yi Qingtang hurried over to Jiang Lang and Moe's lodgings, the eerie quietness seemed to pervade all her senses. Yi Qingtang subconsciously slowed down her steps. She swallowed the unease rising in her throat. Jiang Lang and Moe were not her biological parents, but their care and protection made Yi Qingtang feel like they were her real family. They were like Yi Ling, who had raised her in Lin Town. Jiang Lang and Moe's courtyard was empty. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to enter the rooms, she heard a blood-curdling scream. Shaobai. Yi Qingtang's heart leaped at that familiar voice. She was about to run toward the source of the scream when a bloodied figure suddenly leaped across the walls. In the next second, the person fell heavily right in front of Yi Qingtang. The person was bleeding profusely. Jiang Shaobai, who had been perfectly fine just minutes ago, was now in dire straits. There was a deep wound on his head from which bright red blood kept pouring out. The rest of his body was covered with burn marks, such that not a clear inch of his originally smooth skin could be seen. Run! Jiang Shaobai glanced up at Yi Qingtang before he drew up the last of his strength to gasp out his final word. He then collapsed onto the ground, eyes closing for the last time. Shit, someone's after him. I can feel that person's aura, it's powerful beyond belief. Little White Tiger could instinctively feel that danger was approaching fast. Within seconds, Little White Tiger morphed into its larger form. We have to go. Little White Tiger's instincts told it that they would perish here if they lingered on and were caught up by their pursuer. Yi Qingtang didn't hesitate. Scooping up Jiang Shaobai from the floor, she jumped onto the White Tiger's back. Chapter 1899, Massacre. 5. White Tiger sprinted forward with Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai on its back. Blood continued to pour forth from Jiang Shaobai's wound while Yi Qingtang's heart pounded heavily. It was only after White Tiger confirmed that no one was pursuing them that Yi Qingtang finally told it to find a safe spot at the foot of the mountain to take a rest. Jiang Shaobai was gravely injured. He was unconscious and his entire body felt feverish to the touch. It was like a ball of fire that had been ignited in his body. Without leaving any for herself, Yi Qingtang administered all of her sacred healing elixirs to Jiang Shaobai. It was only then that his breathing finally became more steady. Yi Qingtang started to clean up his wound. She drew back in shock and nearly stopped breathing when she saw the deep gash and the shattered skull bone beneath. Jiang Shaobai's powers were a mystery to her. Yi Qingtang had never sparred with Jiang Shaobai before, but following her recent breakthrough, she could feel that Jiang Shaobai's powers were far beyond that of Jiang Yanyan's. In fact, he must have already attained the sixth heaven of the heavenly venerate realm. Also, he was powerful enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with Bailey Shi from the first martial arts championship. But she had just left Jiang Shaobai's side for a few minutes. How had someone already managed to cause such grievous injuries to him? It was strange. Yi Qingtang hadn't even heard the slightest hint of a skirmish. From that, it was clear that the fight was a one-sided battle, with Zhang Xiaobai on the losing end. Someone formidable enough to completely overpower Zhang Xiaobai, that person must be at least 2 levels higher than him. Yi Qingtang found the situation increasingly bizarre. Taiyuan Valley had been destroyed, the Jiang family residence was also desecrated. As much as Yi Qingtang wanted to get to the bottom of this, she was unable to return to the Jiang family residence to investigate the matter. That person was still at the Jiang family residence. Who the hell was that person? Unfortunately, only Zhang Xiaobai would know. Yi Qingtang didn't dare to move Zhang Xiaobai due to his serious injuries. She had no choice but to lay low with him for the moment so that he could recuperate. Now they could no longer return to the Jiang family residence, even though Yi Qingtang desperately wished to know whether Jiang Lang and his wife Jiang Sun were safe. As for the identity of that person, they had no choice but to wait until Zhang Xiaobai regained consciousness. Yi Qingtang decided to let Little White Tiger stand guard in case the person secretly caught up with them. Meanwhile, she would concentrate on taking care of Zhang Xiaobai. Zhang Xiaobai slept for 7 consecutive days. On the 8th day, Zhang Xiaobai uttered a low groan. Yi Qingtang immediately turned toward him. Xiaobai. The elder exclaimed in joy. What? Xuefu was stunned. Before he had a chance to speak, he felt a gust of wind blow past him. Turning around, Ming Wang had already gone. Where had all that calm composure gone? Ming Wang hurried to the grand hall of the Temple of Shadows. He saw that slender figure, the image of whom had long been imprinted in his soul. An imperceptible hint of joy surfaced in those cool, impassive black eyes. Yi Qingtang stood within the grand hall. She lifted her eyes and saw Ming Wang. She was back. Yi Qingtang gave an inward sigh of helplessness. She never imagined that she would ever return to the Temple of Shadows of her own free will. But since she decided to come back, there was nothing she could complain about. As she gazed at Ming Wang, her lips curved upwards into a familiar smile. Miss me? Chapter 1902, Temple of Shadows, 2. Ming Wang was momentarily taken aback, but he quickly recomposed himself and said stiffly, I am not Ming Gu. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly and reached out to pinch Ming Wang's cheek. How hurtful your words are. And to think that I missed you so much. At that, Yi Qingtang could clearly feel the cheek between her fingers stiffen. Silly fool. Still trying to pretend? In the past, all Yi Qingtang could think about was escaping the Temple of Shadows. But somehow, she felt a strange sense of peace and comfort upon her return. Stop fooling around. Ming Wang suppressed the frantic flurry in his heart and pulled Yi Qingtang's hand away with a slight frown. Yi Qingtang wanted to continue teasing Ming Wang, but behind her, Zhang Xiaobai jumped down from White Tiger's back and bumbled over to cling onto Yi Qingtang's side in his usual manner. He stared at Ming Wang with wide, dopey eyes. A harsh light flashed across Ming Wang's eyes the moment he noticed Zhang Xiaobai. Yi Qingtang immediately knew what Ming Wang was thinking and was prepared to speak up. But before she could do so, a small figure was charging right into her. Almost instinctively, Yi Qingtang raised her hands to catch that little cannonball figure. Ah Yao, you're finally back. Sob. I thought you had abandoned me again. Ming Gu sobbed so hard that he was smearing tears and snot all over Yi Qingtang. He nuzzled his pitiful little face in her arms, as if he was a coquettish kitten. Standing by the side, Xuefu rubbed his nose. He had immediately gone to inform Ming Gu the moment they got the news. Before Xuefu could finish his sentence, Ming Gu had already flown past him and disappeared without a trace. The two fierce and formidable holy sons. They were indeed biological brothers. Underneath it all, they still had the same mannerisms. Yi Qingtang's heart nearly melted at the sight of the woeful Ming Gu fussing in her arms. I'm back now, aren't I? How could I have possibly abandoned you? Yi Qingtang patted Minggu on the back. She was very amused by Minggu's clingy personality. On the side, Ming Wang stood there with a stony expression. You are not allowed to leave again. Even if you want to leave, you must bring me along. Minggu had a death grip on Yi Qingtang. He was deeply afraid that she might disappear again if he was not careful. Elder sister. A voice suddenly piped up from beside Yi Qingtang, and Minggu immediately lifted his head. It was only then that he noticed the handsome young teenager hanging onto Yi Qingtang's arm. You. Who are you? Minggu widened his eyes as he glared furiously at Zhang Xiaobai. One could nearly see the flames spewing out of Minggu's eyes as he glared at the hands clinging onto Yi Qingtang's arm. Let go of her. Smelly little bugger. How dare you taint my Ah Yao? Men, take this dirty scoundrel away and execute him. Minggu was incensed. How could his Ah Yao allow this wretched and disgusting idiot to taint her in this manner? Minggu's voice was full of thunderous rage. Hearing his angry shouts, the simple-minded Zhang Xiaobai instinctively shrank back and hid behind Yi Qingtang. Seeing the insolent brat, Minggu was now desperate to kill this eyesore of a person. How dare you continue touching my Ah Yao? I will kill you. Minggu roared as he reached out one hand toward Zhang Xiaobai. Minggu. Yi Qingtang grabbed Minggu's wrist. Zhang Xiaobai had yet to fully recover from his injuries. Just one smack by Minggu would surely send him to his deathbed. Chapter 1903, Temple of Shadows, 3, Ah Yao. Minggu stared at Yi Qingtang with stunned eyes. Elder sister, Zhang Xiaobai shuddered as he crouched by Yi Qingtang's side. Yi Qingtang felt like she was coming down with a headache. Minggu, I was the one who brought him here. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath to compose herself. What? Minggu looked like he had suffered a grievous blow. This person is very important. You cannot hurt him. Yi Qingtang was very worried that Minggu might end up killing Zhang Xiaobai with just one careless smack. After all, Zhang Xiaobai's mental age was that of a toddler now. Very important, Minggu staggered backward in shock, staring at Yi Qingtang with eyes full of grievances. He clutched at his chest as if 1,000 arrows were piercing his heart. He looked exactly like a wife who just found out that her husband had a mistress by the side. You are having an affair. Yi Qingtang, it's a long story. This person has information that I need. But he got injured and became mentally impaired. I need to cure him before I can retrieve the information. Yi Qingtang quickly recited the explanation she had already prepared. Minggu remained teary-eyed as he stared at the unfaithful and heartless Yi Qingtang. On the other hand, Ming Wang remained as impassive as always. Observing everything with a cold expression, he studied Zhang Xiaobai's childish manner with narrowed eyes. Minggu was about to speak again when Ming Wang cut in coldly. Stop your nonsense. Minggu glared at his elder brother. The Holy Lord has her reasons for doing what she does. I will have to lock you up again if you continue behaving so unreasonably. The stern words left Minggu completely cowed. Staring at Zhang Xiaobai, who was still clinging onto Yi Qingtang, there was no way Minggu was willing to be locked up at a time like this. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief in the face of Ming Wang's calm. His injuries are very serious. Ming Wang, get someone to tend to him. See if he can be fully cured. Yi Qingtang told Ming Wang. Got it. Ming Wang nodded. Yi Qingtang wanted to hand Zhang Xiaobai over to Xue Fu for treatment, but Zhang Xiaobai was so unsettled by everything that he refused to leave Yi Qingtang's side. He would cry like a toddler the moment anyone tried to pry him away. Yi Qingtang's heart constricted at the sight. She would rather have the sharp-tongued and lazy Zhang Xiaobai of the past, instead of this simple-minded fool. Never mind. Send someone to my room later to treat him. Yi Qingtang couldn't bear to see Zhang Xiaobai in this manner. Besides, Ming Wang and the rest didn't know of Jiang Shaobai's background. All she had told them was that he was someone with important information. Ming Gu's eyes lit up with rage at Yi Qingtang's words. No. 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 He cannot stay with Ah Yao. Ming Gu objected vehemently. Chapter 1904, The Holy Lord's Dharma Artifact, 1, Got it. Ming Wang accepted the command and was prepared to leave when he suddenly halted and glanced at the slumbering Jiang Shaobai. But in the end, he left without saying another word. Yi Qingtang heaved a sigh of relief as Ming Wang left. It looked like Ming Wang did not suspect anything yet. Upon returning to the Temple of Shadows, Yi Qingtang felt a sense of familiar comfort. Yi Qingtang had been in a tense state of mind since entering the mystic realm. She had not had a chance to relax at all. After a quick wash-up and change of clothes, she gazed at the sleeping Jiang Shaobai, her heart heavy with emotion. I think that you should keep a close eye on Jiang Shaobai from now on, Little White Tiger piped up. Yi Qingtang, that Ming Gu is already targeting Jiang Shaobai. Even with Ming Wang around, who knows what Ming Gu will do with that crazy jealousy of his. He might secretly kill off Jiang Shaobai one of these days. Little White Tiger couldn't help shuddering when it recalled the malevolent way Ming Gu had been glowering at Jiang Shaobai. Ming Gu was already gritting his teeth in anger when he first saw Yi Qingtang carrying Little White Tiger. Now that Yi Qingtang had returned with this Jiang Shaobai, Ming Gu must be bursting with rage. I know. Yi Qingtang sighed. Ming Gu's possessiveness of the Holy Lord of Shadows was incomparable to any other. Just as Yi Qingtang was speaking with Little White Tiger, there was a sudden knock on the door. Opening the door, a woeful Ming Gu was standing outside. Hands crossed behind his back, he gazed uneasily at Yi Qingtang. Ah Yao, don't be angry. I just missed you too much. That's why I behaved in that manner earlier. I won't do anything to that dirty rascal. Don't be angry at me. Ming Gu gazed pathetically at Yi Qingtang. Although he didn't like anyone else occupying Ah Yao's attention, he was even more afraid of Ah Yao hating him. As Yi Qingtang looked at Ming Gu's pitiful little face, any anger she might have felt would have already dissipated. But anyway, she hadn't been angry in the first place. Ah Yao, I was the one who cleaned your room when you were not around. I didn't let anyone in. I have also been keeping this item on your behalf. Ming Gu took out a gold-gilded black box. That gold-gilded black box looked very familiar. It was given to her when she first entered the Temple of Shadows. They said it belonged to the Holy Lord of Shadows. But Yi Qingtang had been unable to open it no matter how hard she tried. As a result, she gradually forgot about it. Yi Qingtang accepted the gold-gilded black box and stroked Ming Gu's little head. Almost glowing from her actions, Ming Gu looked very bashful and proud, as if he had just been praised. Ah Yao, you should rest early. I will have the servants bring some flowers to your room tomorrow. Also, you came back so suddenly so I didn't have time to prepare anything at all. I will prepare some black flame worms for you tomorrow. The image of those nightmarish black flame worms and those blood-drenched flowers came up in her mind. For a moment, she suddenly couldn't summon up even the slightest hint of a smile. There's no rush. Yi Qingtang maintained a calm facade. After giving her a bashful grin, Ming Gu grunted and ran off. Yi Qingtang closed the door and thought of how this room would be filled with those blood-drenched flowers tomorrow. She suddenly found it difficult to breathe. My goodness. Yi Qingtang sighed and sat down on a chair. She mulled over the Jiang family massacre but didn't manage to glean any new insights. Suddenly, a clear, cracking sound seemed to resound across the room. Little White Tiger widened its eyes. What did you do? Chapter 1905, The Holy Lord's Dharma Artifact, 2, Yi Qingtang was confused. I didn't do anything. She had been sitting there in deep thought. What could she have done? If you didn't do anything, how did this gold-gilded black box suddenly pop open? Little White Tiger lifted one paw and pointed at the box in Yi Qingtang's hand. Yi Qingtang, she looked down at the box in her hand. She had been so absorbed thinking about the Jiang family incident that she hadn't been paying much attention to it. She had just been playing with it in her hands. But how did the lock on the gold-gilded black box suddenly just pop open? How did you do it? Little White Tiger jumped onto Yi Qingtang's knee and gazed at the box. When the gold-gilded black box first came into Yi Qingtang's possession, neither she nor Little White Tiger could open it. They had tried all sorts of ways but failed. How did this gold-gilded black box suddenly pop open? Yi Qingtang was also puzzled. She hadn't been paying attention to what she was doing with the box earlier. Quickly take a look. See what kind of Dharma artifact is inside this gold-gilded black box. Little White Tiger's eyes shone with excitement. This was a Dharma artifact left behind by the Holy Lord of Shadows. It must be some extremely precious treasure. The Holy Lord of Shadows had once been the most powerful figure in the entire central mainland. He must have had many valuable items. Yi Qingtang was also very curious, so she lifted the lid of the box. Inside the intricate box was a delicate finger bone. The finger bone was long and slender and looked like it belonged to a lady. Astonishment flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes when she saw the bone. The Dharma artifact of the Holy Lord of Shadows is a finger bone. Little White Tiger was shocked by the sight. All this time, Little White Tiger had thought that there must be some really powerful Dharma artifact locked up in this mysterious gold-gilded black box. But it was just a finger bone. The higher one's expectations were, the bigger the disappointment. Whose finger bone is that? To be kept so carefully by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Little White Tiger was full of curiosity. Yi Qingtang also found it very bewildering. She took out the bone from the box. The bone felt cold to the touch. As Yi Qingtang held it, the chill traveled through her palm and spread throughout her entire body. She felt like she was being enveloped in a shroud of cold air. Instinct told Yi Qingtang to put the bone back into the box. But just as she was about to, a loud boom went off in her mind and everything went black before her eyes. Even then, the chill continued to assault Yi Qingtang and she felt like she was submerged in ice. Gradually, faint beams of light started to pierce through the blackness before her. Chapter 1906, The Holy Lord's Dharma Artifact, 3, Strangers in Strange Places. Countless scenes flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, all completely unfamiliar to her but somehow, she felt like she had lived through them. A brilliant light shone down on her and Yi Qingtang suddenly opened her eyes with a loud gasp. Darkness. Dazzling lights. Flashing images. All those faded away from Yi Qingtang's eyes. All that was left in her line of sight was Little White Tiger's worried expression. What happened to you? Why did you suddenly faint? Little White Tiger gazed nervously at Yi Qingtang. Fear continued to swirl in Yi Qingtang's heart as she gasped out breaths of air. She glanced down at herself, feeling as if she was still enveloped in a shroud of cold air. Her skin had even turned somewhat white from the chill. Yi Qingtang wanted to explain but didn't know what to say. She had seen many memories, all of which didn't belong to her. Yi Qingtang had been reincarnated before but she was very sure that those memories were not from her previous life. The people in those memories were all strangers to her. But why had she seen all those memories then? And wasn't she the person at the center of those memories? Nothing made sense to her, and Yi Qingtang was left feeling increasingly puzzled. She was completely bewildered by the sudden appearance of those flashing images. She glanced down at her hand instinctively. The finger bone had disappeared. Where's the finger bone? Yi Qingtang asked. Wasn't it in your hand all along? Little White Tiger asked. Yi Qingtang showed Little White Tiger her empty palm. It was likewise baffled. What was going on? How did the finger bone disappear? I think I might know who the finger bone belonged to. Yi Qingtang massaged her aching temples. The Temple of Shadows had portraits of the Holy Lord of Shadows, and the Holy Lord looked exactly like Yi Qingtang. The identical-looking person she had seen in those memories must be the Holy Lord. What do you mean? Little White Tiger was confused. It means that the finger bone must belong to the Holy Lord of Shadows. When I took out that bone, I must have activated the power she had stored inside that bone. I saw many memory fragments belonging to the Holy Lord. Yi Qingtang continued to rub her temples. Those memory fragments were very chaotic and they flashed by too quickly. There was no discernible link between them and she had no idea what had happened. How did you activate the finger bone of the Holy Lord of Shadows? Little White Tiger shot Yi Qingtang a strange look. Yi Qingtang pursed her lips in a wry smile. I would like to know that too. First was the wearing of the 9 Souls ring and then the opening of the gold-gilded black box. And now, she had somehow activated the finger bone belonging to the Holy Lord of Shadows, which had consequently disappeared. Chapter 1907, Paragon Level 1. This was not the first time Yi Qingtang encountered something like this. Yi Qingtang didn't dare to overthink it. She quickly sat down cross-legged and started to control the circulation of the chaotic energy inside her. She would explode and die if she just allowed it to run amok within her. That energy within Yi Qingtang turned increasingly strange. Although it clearly came from an external source, it wasn't volatile and she managed to absorb it very smoothly. It felt like the energy was naturally immersing itself into her, there was no need for her to force it. It was the first time Yi Qingtang experienced something like this. After a very long time, the chilly air surrounding Yi Qingtang gradually faded. A silver-gray glow covered her entire body, the sight of which caused Little White Tiger's eyes to widen in amazement. Why could it feel a faint aura of death from Yi Qingtang? Yi Qingtang opened her eyes and a strong beam of light suddenly burst out of her body. Little White Tiger was sent flying away by the force. It knocked into the gold-gilded black box which fell on top of Little White Tiger. Damn! Yi Qingtang was stunned by the sight of that strong beam and the powerful energy surging within her. Paragon level. Yi Qingtang was in complete disbelief as she felt the power within her. This was her peak level in her previous life. Yi Qingtang had never imagined that she could once again attain the Paragon level under such random circumstances. After coming out from the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm, she was already close to the 8th heaven of the Heavenly Venerate. Even others were astounded by her lightning-fast progress. Likewise, she was already very satisfied with her advancement and believed that she had already nearly finished absorbing all the energy from the spirit stones within her. She thought that it would take another few years for her to try and attain the Paragon level. But it had only been how long? How was she already at the Paragon level now? Yi Qingtang could feel a wondrous change had been triggered within her. She now exuded a faint aura of death. That death aura was very mild and it was nearly undetectable if she didn't try and focus on it. Even more astonishing was the fact that this death aura felt exactly the same as the one exuded by the finger bone of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang stared at her own hands. Had she somehow merged with the power stored inside that finger bone? She had always known that the Holy Lord of Shadows was very powerful. Otherwise, she would not have become the most powerful figure on this mainland. But she never dreamed that just one finger bone from the Holy Lord would be enough to push her into the Paragon level. Was the power of the Holy Lord of Shadows really that formidable? Yi Qingtang had no idea. Chapter 1908, Paragon Level 2. This thing was not that heavy. Letting out a light chuckle, Yi Qingtang lifted the gold-gilded black box with apparent ease. Little White Tiger scurried out and shook out its messy fur. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to tease Little White Tiger, the box suddenly vibrated in her hands. In the next second, a large pile of Dharma artifacts streamed out of the gold-gilded black box. Within seconds, the pile of artifacts had grown into the size of a small hill. Yi Qingtang, what was going on? Little White Tiger was also dumbstruck. It had clearly seen that the box only contained one finger bone. Where did all these Dharma artifacts come from? Could this gold-gilded black box be a space storage item? The corners of Little White Tiger's lips twitched as it gazed at the growing pile of artifacts. The quantity was enough to fill 100 gold-gilded black boxes. But I have never seen them before. Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows slightly. Little White Tiger circled Yi Qingtang, sniffing the quickly dissipating aura of death around her. It must have something to do with that finger bone. Didn't the undead mention before that only the Holy Lord herself could use her items? I think your aura must have been affected by the finger bone. After absorbing it, your aura has been tainted by that of the Holy Lord. As a result, you managed to open the gold-gilded black box properly this time. Little White Tiger tried to comprehend the strange situation that was happening before its eyes. It gasped and it noticed Yi Qingtang's current level. Damn, what did you eat to advance so quickly? Yi Qingtang looked at Little White Tiger in exasperation. She had no idea herself. This is really strange. These things didn't happen when you first came to the Temple of Shadows. Something must have happened in the mystic realm, which enabled you to open this gold-gilded black box. The more Little White Tiger thought about it, the stranger things appeared. The first seal of the gold-gilded black box was the key to opening it. If they hadn't managed to break it, they would never have gotten the Holy Lord of Shadow's finger bone. I would like to know too. Yi Qingtang also didn't understand what had triggered all this. Nevertheless, she felt rather dazzled by all the Dharma artifacts piled on the ground. She picked up a few to take a closer look. Yi Qingtang's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets as she studied the items. The artifacts of this Holy Lord were really something. Even if she were to gather all the artifacts owned by all the clans in First Mainland, they would be no match for these at all. Yi Qingtang's heart nearly stopped just by the sight of them. Every single one of these Dharma artifacts was at least Paragon level. But such divine artifacts had a limitation. Only those who were high-level practitioners themselves could use them. They would be useless to anyone of a lower level. Yi Qingtang already spotted several artifacts that would only be activated by Emperor-level practitioners. Having just attained the Paragon level, Yi Qingtang thought that she already possessed tremendous power. But standing before all these Dharma artifacts, she suddenly felt like her powers were completely insignificant. Yi Qingtang's impression of the Holy Lord of Shadows instantly shot up. There were too many artifacts for Yi Qingtang to try them one at a time. She would be doomed if one of the undead came in and saw her trying them out. With that thought in mind, Yi Qingtang had no reason to hold back. Who cared if she could or couldn't use it now? She would just stuff everything into her space ring first. A great harvest? That's exactly what this was. She had already gotten several artifacts from Bailey Shi and Mu Fairu, as well as all those she had previously accumulated. Now she also had the artifacts that belonged to the Holy Lord. Chapter 1909, Paragon Level 3, Yi Qingtang's space ring was now a little treasure trove. If anyone from the other clans were to take a peek at it, they would definitely be shocked at all the precious artifacts inside. Having gone up yet another level and obtained so many goodies, Yi Qingtang was in a wonderful mood. To the point that she remained grinning even when her room was filled with those blood-drenched skull flowers the next day. However, she still nearly puked at the smell of those black flame worms. Perhaps it was the result of a good night's rest. Jiang Xiaobai appeared much calmer the next morning. He didn't hide behind Yi Qingtang the whole time like when they first arrived at the temple. Instead, he sat by the window in a daze. Yi Qingtang sighed inwardly. She would just have to wait for Ming Wang to report on his investigative efforts. Luckily Ming Wang didn't let Yi Qingtang wait too long. He reported back to Yi Qingtang after just a few days. Holy Lord, something did happen to the ancient clans from the mainland recently. Ming Wang reported. Yi Qingtang's heart quivered, but she maintained her calm facade. Oh. Tell me about it. Recently, several central mainland clans were attacked, including the Nanlin clan, the Jiang clan, the Ouyang clan, Ming Wang reported with an impassive expression. According to the investigative efforts of the Temple of Shadows, several ancient clans in central mainland suffered major attacks during the recent period. The attacks were devastating and the clans were nearly wiped out. The Nanlin clan suffered the worst. Every single member of the clan was dead, with their bodies strewn across the family compound. The Jiang clan endured a similar fate. The Taiyuan Valley, which was used to cultivate the best of the clan, had been utterly destroyed. The main family residence had also been attacked and suffered numerous fatalities. The whereabouts of the domain monarch and key family members were unknown. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Yi Qingtang's heart pounded heavily as she heard about the Jiang family. Her heart was nearly leaping out of her throat. Luckily, Ming Wang reported that they hadn't discovered the bodies of the domain monarch, Jiang Lang, and his wife. It seemed like they might have fled before the enemy attacked. Did you find out who the attacker was? Yi Qingtang asked. The various ancient clans in the mainland were all powerful forces to be reckoned with. What kind of person or power was able to decimate those clans in such a short period of time? Ming Wang shook his head. Most of the victims have died, and the whereabouts of the remaining Jiang family members are unknown. As a result, we were unable to find out. The attacker's methods are rather swift and precise. He didn't leave behind any clues. We brought back the body of one of the Nanlin clan members. The person died in a wretched state and his injuries were very strange. We could not tell what kind of skill was used on the body. Due to the fight over the Eternal Dynasty crown, trouble continued to brew at the sacred ground of reflection. As a result, Ming Wang had been concentrating his efforts on the sacred ground of reflection. He didn't notice anything happening with the other ancient clans. If not for Yi Qingtang's instructions, he would never have thought to investigate the matter. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. It looked like they had once again reached a dead end regarding the Jiang family massacre. The only piece of good news was that they did not confirm the deaths of Jiang Lang and his wife. Even so, Yi Qingtang was full of doubts and queries. Who was behind it all? The balance between the major ancient clans in First Mainland had been maintained for so many years. Who would suddenly slaughter so many clans at a time like this? And what were their intentions? Chapter 1910, Enemy Attack, 1. Just as Yi Qingtang was mulling over this, Xue Fu hurried into the Grand Hall. He looked very grim. Holy Lord, Holy Sun, someone is causing trouble outside. Who? Yi Qingtang asked. Xue Fu shook his head. I don't know. He is demanding to see the Holy Lord. Before Yi Qingtang could reply, Ming Wang's face instantly became very stern. Xue Fu, you have become increasingly negligent and careless. Xue Fu was momentarily startled before immediately getting down on one knee. Ming Wang said coldly, what kind of place is the Temple of Shadows? Who is this person who can demand to see the Holy Lord as and when he pleases? Xue Fu's face turned pale as he tried to defend himself. This person is very powerful. I couldn't stop him. I am the useless one. Holy Lord, please see fit to punish me. Yi Qingtang was astounded by Xue Fu's words. She knew just how strong Xue Fu was. Although he paled in comparison to Ming Wang and Ming Gu, he was still amongst the elite in the central mainland. Even Xue Fu could not handle this person. Ming Wang's eyes also darkened. I want to see just who this person is. With that, Ming Wang took his leave from Yi Qingtang and turned to leave the Grand Hall. As Yi Qingtang gazed after Ming Wang's departing figure, a sense of unease rose in her heart. Outside the Temple of Shadows, a crowd of anxious and tense undead was keeping a close watch on an effeminate-looking youth. The youth looked like he was in his early teens. With long, jet black hair that flowed loosely behind his back. It contrasted with his fair face, which was pale to the point of looking a little sickly. The youth had very effeminate features. His skin was fair and flawless, while his rosy lips were curled up in a coquettish smile. "Please ask your holy lord to come out. I am not interested in dealing with a bunch of minions." The youth lifted his chin and crossed his arms over his chest. He surveyed the bunch of undead with scornful eyes. The corpses of several undead were already strewn beside the youth. Even the charming lady ghost was in a pathetic state now. She was being supported by an elder, as a large piece of her shoulder had been sliced off. Spiderweb-like cracks had also appeared on her human form. "Who the hell are you? Do you think you are fit to meet our holy lord?" Lady Ghost gritted her teeth. The effeminate-looking youth narrowed his eyes at Lady Ghost. "Don't think that just because you are called the Undead Clan that you really want die. I couldn't be bothered with you earlier, but if you continue to whine, I will make sure you completely disintegrate from this earth." A lavender-colored flame suddenly ignited as the youth spoke. The flame didn't appear hot at all, but the surrounding temperature suddenly increased. Lady Ghost gritted her teeth. She knew very well that she was no match for this youth. Chapter 1911, Enemy Attack, 2, Ming Wang's eyes landed on the effeminate-looking youth. "Another one of you has come seeking death. Please. I have no time to waste on you guys. Get your holy lord to come out now so that I can get this over with." The effeminate-looking youth showed complete disregard for Ming Wang as he pursed his lips impatiently. "You are not fit to meet her," Ming Wang stated coldly. The face of the effeminate-looking youth darkened. A glint surfaced in his dark pupils. At that moment, the youth suddenly looked past Ming Wang and toward the entrance of the Temple of Shadows, where a slender figure was standing. A twisted smile suddenly appeared on the face of the youth. "The Holy Lord of Shadows?" Ming Wang was stunned by the words uttered by the effeminate-looking youth. He turned and saw that Yi Qingtang had already reached the entrance of the hall. Ming Wang frowned. "It's good that you have finally appeared. I won't waste your time either. Just hand over the item and everything will be fine." The youth smiled at Yi Qingtang. "Yi Qingtang? What item? Where did this lunatic come from?" There was a crazed light in the eyes of the effeminate-looking youth, and he exuded danger from every pore. A deep unease tore at Yi Qingtang's senses. "How dare you!" Ming Wang's face had turned completely dark. He suddenly raised his hand and a gigantic black dragon charged toward the effeminate-looking youth. "I already said that I am not interested in playing with minions like you." The expression of the youth suddenly shifted and a silver glint flashed across his eyes. He raised his palm and a lavender ball of cold fire was ignited within. The cold flames flew toward Ming Wang's dragon. With a thunderous boom, the icy fire sliced straight through the black dragon, splitting it in half. "It's him." Something clicked in Little White Tiger's head when it saw the youth's attack. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Before she could say anything, the icy ball of fire had broken through Ming Wang's defenses and smashed right into his body. In the blink of an eye, Ming Wang was engulfed in lavender light. An expression of intense agony crossed his face. The lavender light seemed to have frozen into an indestructible layer of ice with Ming Wang encased inside. "Weakling." The effeminate-looking youth gazed disdainfully at Ming Wang. Drawing back his 5 fingers slightly, countless icicles suddenly protruded out of the ice surrounding Ming Wang. The icicles pierced right through Ming Wang's body. Yi Qingtang was stunned. To her knowledge, Ming Wang's powers were extremely formidable. He had already progressed beyond the Paragon level. For Yi Qingtang, who had just attained the Paragon level today, she was not a match even for Ming Wang. But even the powerful Ming Wang was totally defenseless against the youth's attack. "I have seen this fellow." "No, more like I have felt his presence before, at the Jiang family residence. He was the one who injured Jiang Xiaobai." Little White Tiger's fur was already standing straight on end. That unbelievably powerful aura was very familiar. It had already encountered it earlier in the Jiang family residence. Chapter 1912, Enemy Attack, 3, What? Yi Qingtang's heart pounded so loudly she could hear the thrum reverberating against her chest. She never expected to come face to face with the murderer of the Jiang family at this juncture. And this person was powerful beyond belief. The undead clan of the Temple of Shadows bristled with malevolence as they witnessed the scene. Even so, they knew very well that they were no match for this youth. Within seconds, all the undead turned their eyes toward Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang, she was also feeling very lost. Even Ming Wang was no match for him. How the hell was she supposed to defeat him? But Yi Qingtang had no idea what this person was looking for. He didn't make himself clear. Or perhaps, the real Holy Lord of Shadows would know what this person was hinting at. But Yi Qingtang didn't know. Holy Lord, just hand over the item. Unless, you want me to destroy your entire temple before you are forced to do so. The effeminate-looking youth had already reached the end of his patience. Yi Qingtang looked at Ming Wang, who was still trapped by the icicles. She felt very anxious but had to pretend to appear calm and confident. You want it? Yi Qingtang spoke in a mild manner. That's right, said the youth. Sure. If you can knock me over with one blow, I will hand over the item to you, Yi Qingtang stated. The effeminate-looking youth was momentarily taken aback. He never expected Yi Qingtang to make such a proposition. What are you trying to do? The youth looked bewildered. A smile crossed her face. I am not trying to do anything. I just want to see if you are a worthy opponent for me. I will let you make the first move. If you manage to injure me with that one move, I will concede defeat. But if you can't, Yi Qingtang's words were unexpected. The effeminate-looking had no idea what her underlying intentions were. Nevertheless. No problem. But, let's make one thing clear. You'd better not turn out like the clan chief of the Nanlin clan, dying on me after just one move. I don't want to waste my time finding the item. The youth was very confident in his abilities. Yi Qingtang's heart sank. This youth was indeed the murderer behind the recent massacre of the ancient clans. Are you mad? You are no match for him at all. Little White Tiger growled. It was as jumpy as an ant on a hot stove when it heard Yi Qingtang's suicidal proposition. Yi Qingtang shot Little White Tiger a look that clearly meant for it to calm down, before stepping forward. Trapped by the icicles pierced through his body, Ming Wang was in agony. He wanted to speak when he saw Yi Qingtang step forward but was unable to move a muscle. Holy Lord, this young punk has very strange abilities, Lady Ghost whispered. Yi Qingtang gave a slight nod. She stood before the youth with a mild smile, looking both gracious and benevolent. Please make your move. Chapter 1913, Tricks, 1, Narrowing her eyes, Yi Qingtang touched the hem of her sleeve. Boom! With a wave of her arm, the lavender fire crashed into her with no effects. She appeared to have exerted no effort at all. Right before the eyes of everyone, the ferocious lavender flame was instantly changed into a clear blue spring. There were sounds of splashing. Then the clear blue spring waters splashed onto the ground, soaking the earth around Yi Qingtang. Elation danced in the eyes of everyone from the Temple of Shadows who witnessed this scene. Did you really think you had to be worried for me? Yi Qingtang gazed mildly at the undead who had been so anxious for her. Now, those undead just felt like cheering out loud upon seeing Yi Qingtang's grand manner. The Holy Lord is magnificent. Xue Fu hollered. Within seconds, all the undead started cheering for their Holy Lord. The face of the effeminate-looking youth was filled with shock. Only he knew that he had not held back at all in his previous attack. He never expected his cosmic thunderbolt could be so easily disintegrated with just a single wave by the Holy Lord of Shadows. In contrast to his previous arrogance, the youth looked somewhat grim now. Things had always gone his way, how was he to endure this setback? You have already made your move. It ends now. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly as she cast a sweeping glance at the youth. The lips of the effeminate-looking youth twitched slightly as a sense of unease rose in his heart. The Holy Lord of Shadows might have gone missing for 10,000 years, but she had once been the most powerful being on the mainland. Yi Qingtang had transformed his all-out attack into a puddle of spring water. His attack did not even come close to touching Yi Qingtang. The youth had never experienced something like this before. Fear of the Holy Lord of Shadows subconsciously crept into the youth's heart. Shifting his gaze, he suddenly leaped up and fled from the Temple of Shadows. The ice encasing Ming Wang disappeared following the departure of the youth. Ming Wang staggered forward, his body full of injuries. Trying to escape. Lady Ghost wanted to pursue the effeminate-looking youth. But she was stopped by Yi Qingtang. Let us take a look at Ming Wang's injuries first. Yi Qingtang spoke magnanimously, but she was heaving a huge sigh of relief on the inside. Thank goodness she had been able to fake her way through this. Yi Qingtang had hidden the mirror of illusions in her sleeve and she was now discreetly placing it back in her space ring. Even now she was thanking the heavens it had worked. There was no way she would be able to defeat the effeminate-looking youth if she were to pit her powers against his. As a result, she had come up with the one-move condition, intending to use the mirror of illusions to play a trick on the youth and scare him off. If Lady Ghost dragged him back now, Yi Qingtang would be completely helpless. After all, Ming Wang was already the strongest amongst all the undead at present and even he was powerless before the youth. If things dragged on, Yi Qingtang would be forced to reveal her bluff. Lady Ghost was taken aback. She immediately assented and turned back to help Ming Wang. But Ming Wang shrugged her aside. Thank you, Holy Lord, for stepping in. I am useless, please enact your punishment. Despite his heavy injuries, Ming Wang got down on his knees before Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang sighed inwardly at Ming Wang's actions. This person has very strange abilities and an unknown background. Since you already have experienced fighting him, go and investigate his background, Yi Qingtang commanded. This was her way of glossing over Ming Wang's request for punishment. Although Ming Wang frowned slightly, he didn't say anything more. He only accepted her order and retreated immediately. Chapter 1914, Tricks, 2. The way Yi Qingtang had scared the enemy away without even raising a finger made the undead clan of the Temple of Shadows feel as though they were being led by the Holy Lord of Shadows 10,000 years ago again. Under the gaze of the undead clan, Yi Qingtang strolled back into the Grand Hall. While the effeminate youth was an extremely strong opponent in the eyes of the undead of the Temple of Shadow, what did they have to fear now that they had the Holy Lord of Shadows with them? Yi Qingtang only patted her chest in relief after leaving the watchful eyes of the undead clan. Where was this youth from? How could he be so strong? Yi Qingtang felt that there were probably only a handful of people from the entire mainland who could fight with this youth. Meanwhile, Little White Tiger's mouth twisted as it saw Yi Qingtang's guilty expression. You've got guts. If he had found out that you had used the mirror of illusions to trick him, you would have been utterly destroyed in seconds with not even a body left to bury. Of course. I don't even know what he wanted, and he even defeated Ming Wang. If I hadn't tried such a dangerous move, would the Temple of Shadows and have met with the same fate as the Nanlin clan? Yi Qingtang knew completely well just how dangerous the mysterious youth was. But she had no choice. The youth was ruthless, having wiped out several clans in succession. There was no way he would have spared them if he realized that they didn't have what he needed. Thank goodness she had managed to trick him. I don't think he is going to just give up. If what he wants is in the Temple of Shadows, he'll be back sooner or later. What are you going to do when you can't use the mirror of illusions again? Little White Tiger said with a grimace. Yi Qingtang's head was pounding. Even though they had managed to pull through this time, the youth wasn't going to be easy to deal with. They had no idea when he would be back, and they couldn't use the Mirror of Illusions again within a certain time period. She had to come up with another way to deal with him. Back in her room, Yi Qingtang poured out all the Dharma treasures from her gold-gilded black box. Perhaps there would be something she could use to overcome this crisis. But what she found only made her even more miserable. The items from the Holy Lord of Shadows were all of the highest level, and any one of them were weapons that would frighten heaven and hell. But she couldn't use them. After searching for 2 days and 2 nights and almost going through all of the Holy Lord of Shadows' Dharma treasures, she finally found one that someone of the Paragon level could use. It was a black ring with a black skull on it. Yi Qingtang had no idea what the ring was made of, but it was the only thing that responded to her current power level when she tried it on. Chapter 1915, Tricks, 3. There was only one thing that could make them all take action at the same time. The mysterious youth. Yi Qingtang had asked Ming Wang to investigate the origins of the youth, but to no avail. Perhaps the other clans would have more information. In the Grand Hall of the Temple of Shadows, the ancient Mu clan leader's expression was mild as his gaze swept across the Bailey family clan, the Dongyue family clan, and a few other ancient clans. These people were all leaders of the various ancient clans in the central mainland. The presence of any one of these leaders was enough to make the earth and mountains quake. Yet they had all appeared here together with complicated expressions. In the past, they would never have all appeared in the Temple of Shadows at the same time. For the past 10,000 years, the disappearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows had caused the Temple of Shadows to grow weak. They had all but forgotten about the undead clan. At the same time, they weren't concerned when they heard about the return of the Holy Lord of Shadows, since it had nothing to do with them. However, the peace had been shattered in half a month. This effeminate boy who had appeared out of nowhere had massacred so many strong ancient clans in such a short amount of time, among which included the domain monarch Jiang. The clans that had been attacked had suffered great losses, with many dead and too many injured. Some clans had been completely wiped out. Even the bigger ancient clans, which were often at odds with each other, had seen the situation for what it was. Someone who destroyed entire clans was not a person they wanted to acknowledge, but it had gotten to a point where they had no other choice. Clan Elder Dongyue, have you checked on the situation of the Nanlin clan? The Mu clan elder asked quietly. It was rumored that the Nanlin clan had been completely wiped out, with all of its members dead. The Dongyue clan and Nanlin clan were rather close to each other and interacted regularly, which meant that they probably knew more about the situation. The rumors are true. I visited the Nanlin clan after everything happened. The truth is, far worse than the rumors. Clan Elder Dongyue sighed. The faces of the members from the other clans darkened. As the strength of the different clans were all head-to-head, the slaughter of the Nanlin clan naturally alarmed the other clans. Yi Qingtang walked in as the clan elders discussed quietly. The entire grand hall fell silent as the clan leaders' gazes all landed on the beautiful figure on the black bone throne. Greetings, Holy Lord of Shadows, the Bailey family clan elder said politely when he saw Yi Qingtang. The other clan elders were polite as well. Yi Qingtang looked at the scene before her, which consisted of some of the most influential clan elders. Chapter 1916, The Spirit of Chaos, 1, What a Joke. Would the Holy Lord of Shadows need to even lift a finger to defeat this small fry? An elder of the Temple of Shadows retorted. That arrogant youth had been scared away without the Holy Lord even doing a thing. Not only did the clan elders not get angry, but a smug satisfaction also appeared on their faces. They were here today because they had been pushed into a corner, but the youth. A few days ago, they had been informed that the youth had found the Temple of Shadows and they had turned their attention to it. Even though the Holy Lord of Shadows had vanished for over 10,000 years, she had been extremely powerful. They wanted to see if the Holy Lord of Shadows could defeat the youth. The results had pleased them immensely. They had heard that the youth had humiliated himself in front of the Holy Lord of Shadows. He had used all his strength to attack the Holy Lord only for her to brush his attack to the side, then had sent him running away in fear. The clan elders had seen a glimmer of hope and set their egos aside to come here to the Temple of Shadows. The youth is definitely no match for the Holy Lord of Shadows. Back in the past, in order to protect the central mainland, the Holy Lord refused to let the second domain oppress us and went to battle with your armor. You were so strong back then, a member of the Bailey family clan said with a smile. They were filled with praises for the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang grimaced in her head. She already knew what these people wanted. They were just a bunch of sly old foxes. Since they knew that they were no match for the youth, they had all come running to the Temple of Shadows to ask for help. In the past, they didn't want to have anything to do with the Temple of Shadows at all but were all singing praises right now. What a bunch of hypocrites. Please speak your mind if you have something you want to say. Yi Qingtang knew their intentions well but wanted to get more information from them. It's refreshing to see the Holy Lord speak so frankly. This insolent youth has been causing havoc in the central mainland, causing much trouble to the people. Now he's even undermining the authority of the Temple of Shadows. We beg the Holy Lord of Shadows to take action and purge this evil, a clan elder said as he shook his hands. Even if they refused to accept being below the Temple of Shadows, they had no other choice but to get the Holy Lord of Shadows to deal with the youth. They could say anything if it would ensure their survival. Yi Qingtang was by no means the real Holy Lord of Shadows, but she was no fool and wasn't about to let their words get into her head. You're too lavish with your praise. This youth appears to be alone. With the strength of so many clans, there is no way he'll be able to run amok for long. The expressions of the clan elders all became awkward. Chapter 1918, The Spirit of Chaos, 3, Yi Qingtang was speechless. The Holy Lord of Shadows' steed. Why had she never heard of this before? Ming Wang frowned when he heard Ming Di's name. You cannot, he said simply. Why not? The clan elders were confused. Why couldn't the Holy Lord of Shadows send her steed if she didn't want to deal with it herself? Ming Di was sealed thousands of years ago by the Holy Lord. Everyone started talking among themselves. No wonder they hadn't seen Ming Di in the battle with the second domain many years ago. It turned out it had been sealed away by the Holy Lord of Shadows. The gazes towards Yi Qingtang grew more intense. Ming Di had arrived in the central mainland at the same time as the Holy Lord of Shadows. When it had first appeared, its mere presence had been terrifying, with no one able to defeat it. It was rumored that Ming Di's strength was on par with the Holy Lord of Shadows. Such powerful steeds should be treated with the utmost care in any ancient clan. Yet the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed away such a strong being. It was really so vulgar. Yi Qingtang had no words. She didn't even know what or who Ming Di was. Everyone, I will consider what you have said. Let me think about it in the Temple of Shadows for a day. If this continued, Yi Qingtang was afraid that the clan elders would force her to do something impossible and make use of this opportunity to take control of the situation. While they had not gotten any confirmation from Yi Qingtang, they still held out hope since she had not rejected them outright, which meant that they wouldn't give her any grief today. With further room for discussion, they would back off for now. But Yi Qingtang's heart was in a mess. Based on what she could gather from the ancient clan's words, they were absolutely no match for the youth at all. The situation would probably pan out like what they predicted if this dragged on. Yi Qingtang returned to her room while still pondering the issue at hand. Suddenly, as though she had suddenly recalled something, she took out the voice transmission stone, which she hadn't used for a long time. The voice transmission stone had lost its use after she had entered the cursed mystic realm, and she had subsequently forgotten about it. As she stared at the voice transmission stone, she decided to try contacting something. Ling Yan. The voice transmission stone was quiet for a long time. Just as she thought it was already broken, the voice that she hadn't heard in a while rang out. Miss Yi, are you finally missing me? Yi Qingtang was speechless. It's been a while since I've seen Miss Yi. I thought that you had completely forgotten about me. Ling Yan's voice was laced with laughter. Stop fooling around, I've met with some trouble. It's a long story, but there's something important I need to ask you. Yi Qingtang felt that Ling Yan probably understood the Temple of Shadows more than anyone else. What would Miss Yi like to ask? Ling Yan's voice was lazy. Did you know that the Holy Lord of Shadows had a steed? Yi Qingtang was already thinking about the steed. If it was as strong as the ancient clan elders had said, she might be able to make use of it. You're talking about Ming Di? Yes. So you do know it, Yi Qingtang said in glee. If it's something Miss Yi wishes to know, I will work hard to make sure I can answer your question even if I didn't know the answer. What could she say to that? Couldn't he be more serious? What do you know about Ming Di? Chapter 1919, Ming Di, 1. Ling Yan couldn't help but laugh lightly when he heard the urgency in Yi Qingtang's voice but proceeded to tell her everything he knew about Ming Di. In terms of ranking, the Holy Son of the Temple of Shadows was second only to the Holy Lord of Shadows. But in terms of strength, the one closest to the Holy Lord of Shadows was Ming Di, which had terrorized the entire central mainland in the past. Ming Di was a demonic dragon with an explosive temper and was extremely powerful. In fact, the Holy Lord of Shadows had been riding on Ming Di when she had first arrived in the central mainland. These two extremely powerful beings had come together to push the Temple of Shadows to newfound heights. Ming Di's power was extremely terrifying and many strong men from the ancient clans had been unhappy about how arrogant it was at the start. But they had all been swallowed whole by Ming Di after confronting it. If the Holy Lord of Shadows was the embodiment of power, then Ming Di was the embodiment of terror. But after some time, Ming Di had vanished from the central mainland mysteriously. Why did the Holy Lord of Shadows want to seal Ming Di away if it was so strong? Yi Qingtang found it extremely strange. She had no idea what the Holy Lord of Shadows was thinking. It was probably because they had different beliefs. Different beliefs? That's right. The Holy Lord of Shadows wanted to take control over the entire central mainland, but Ming Di's personality was much more violent and it wanted to destroy everything. Rather than overtake the entire central mainland, Ming Di felt that it was more suitable to simply wipe everything out. Furthermore, Ming Di caused a lot of trouble on Central Road at that time, which caused the Temple of Shadows to have many enemies. As a result, all the major forces almost formed an alliance to oppose the Temple of Shadows, which was completely different from what the Holy Lord of Shadows had envisioned. You know quite a lot about all of this. Yi Qingtang felt like there was nothing Ling Yan didn't know. Because it's the information you need. Yi Qingtang had no words. Is Ming Di really that strong? So strong it could exchange blows with the Holy Lord of Shadows? Yi Qingtang asked. Even if it wasn't the case, the difference in their strength was probably not great, or the Holy Lord of Shadows would have been able to suppress it fully, not just seal it away, Ling Yan said. Yi Qingtang was deliberating over Ling Yan's words and was about to ask him about the spirit of chaos when she heard a sound from his side. Miss Yi, I have something I need to deal with. I speak with you later. Without waiting for Yi Qingtang to respond, Ling Yan cut the connection. Having been interrupted so abruptly, Yi Qingtang looked at the voice transmission stone in her hand with a complicated expression. Her thoughts wandered to Ming Di again. Perhaps she could speak with Ming Gu. Since she rarely called him, he rushed over excitedly when she did. Compared to the cautious Ming Wang, Ming Gu trusted her completely, so she took the chance to discreetly ask him about Ming Di. Just as Ling Yan had said, the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed Ming Di because its actions were too tyrannical. At the time, it had already made enemies of too many people in the central mainland. Ming Di did not believe in taking over the central mainland and only believed in wiping out all life instead. It relished in the flames of destruction. After many conflicts with the Holy Lord of Shadows and angering her multiple times, the Holy Lord of Shadows sealed Ming Di completely in the abyss prison of the Temple of Shadows. Chapter 1921, Ming Di, 3. Behind the stone door lay a vast space. If not for the fact that she had walked so deeply underground before reaching this place, she would never have imagined that such a vast space could be under her feet. She had originally thought that the Holy Lord of Shadows had sealed Ming Di away because she was not happy with it, but after looking at this vast space that it was sealed in, Yi Qingtang felt that the Holy Lord of Shadows may not have hated Ming Di after all. Why else would she have made the place Ming Di was sealed in so vast? After walking some distance in darkness, she heard a deep breath. Soon after, a huge gust of air blew at Yi Qingtang's hair and clothes. "Why have you come here?" A deep voice reverberated in her ears like thunder. Almost subconsciously, she turned to face the source of the voice, her eardrums throbbing. In the blurry darkness, she could vaguely make out a pair of glowing red eyes staring at her. Yi Qingtang glanced at those eyes. A huge, dragon-like shape occupied the darkness in front of her. "Mo Yao, when are you planning to seal me here until?" the huge dragon asked in a low, incensed voice. It had been sealed for over 10,000 years in this dark place. Enough was enough. "Mo Yao." Startled, Yi Qingtang recalled how Minggu had addressed the Holy Lord of Shadows. He had called her Ah Yao. Was Mo Yao the Holy Lord of Shadows' real name? Yi Qingtang's mind was racing. She looked at the giant figure half hidden in the darkness and steeled her nerves. "Ming Di." The huge dragon scoffed coldly. Danger filled its red eyes as its eyes narrowed. She must have angered it. Looking at its reaction, it was obvious that Ming Di harbored great unhappiness towards the Holy Lord of Shadows. But Yi Qingtang had rushed over because she wanted to know more about Ming Di's strength, as well as the feelings between the Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Di. She wanted to know if Ming Di's strength was as terrifying as she had heard. There was no need for it to stay by the Holy Lord of Shadows' side at all. It could have left as soon as they had a conflict and did not have to stay to argue with her. Yi Qingtang felt like the feelings between the Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Di were more complicated than people thought. Yi Qingtang's eyes turned regretful as she thought of this. "Ming Di, I was wrong." When Ming Di heard Yi Qingtang's apology, it froze. The smoldering rage it had been feeling all these years seemed unable to assimilate the unexpected words that had come out of her lips. "What do you mean?" Pinching her thigh, Yi Qingtang made her expression even more somber as she lifted her eyes to look at Ming Di. "I used to think that I was right, but now, after 10,000 years, I've come to realize that you were right after all." Ming Di was stunned. "Did it hear correctly? You said that I was right?" Chapter 1922, Unleash the Demon Dragon, 1. Ming Di was clearly pleased by Yi Qingtang's change of heart. Back when Ming Di had fought alongside the Holy Lord of Shadows, Ming Wang and Ming Gu had not even been born. Ming Di was the one who had spent the longest time with the Holy Lord and their relationship was the deepest. If they had not clashed over the way to handle the central mainland, their relationship would have developed even further. Yi Qingtang heaved a secret sigh of relief when she saw that Ming Di was appeased. It looked like her method was right. Seeing the change in Ming Di's mood, Yi Qingtang took the opportunity to continue. "Ming Di, I want to change my ways. I used to place restraints on your actions, but now, I want to allow you free rein in the unification of the entire central mainland." A piercing stare was directed towards Yi Qingtang. "Mo Yao, you have changed after so many years." Yi Qingtang was startled. Could Ming Di have discovered her true identity? Before Yi Qingtang could react, Ming Di raised his head. "You have finally become smarter." Yi Qingtang, damn, this demon dragon was really arrogant. To think she had been so worried that her identity had been exposed. "We wouldn't have fallen out if you had been this smart in the past. Do you know what a terrible time I've had in this abyss prison over the past 10,000 years?" Ming Di asked. It definitely bore a grudge. Yi Qingtang knew what Ming Di was thinking and she put on an apologetic expression. "You must have suffered a lot all these years." Humph, glad that you know. Ming Di snorted. Are you sure you understand? Of course. So you won't object again if I kill off all the people in Central Mainland? Ming Di narrowed his eyes. I already told you that your method is the correct one, Yi Qingtang replied simply. Ming Di looked very pleased. It roared in approval and the abyss prison vibrated with its booming howl. Very good, Mo Yao. You will soon realize what a great decision you have made in letting me leave this abyss prison. You and me both, we will conquer the entire Central Mainland. From now on, the undead clan will be the only living creatures in this mainland. Ming Di's voice was full of viciousness. Although it had already suppressed its energy, Yi Qingtang's heart still felt chilled by its aura. She tried to compose herself before speaking. That is good. But now, we have an enemy whom we have to get rid of first. Enemy? Ming Di asked. Ming Di, you have been inside for too long and don't know of the changes in Central Mainland. Not long ago, a mysterious youth in Central Mainland came to challenge the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang told Ming Di of the whole incident, making sure to exaggerate certain details. Chapter 1923, Unleash the Demon Dragon, 2, Yes, yes, yes. Whatever you say. Yi Qingtang was grumbling on the inside, but she maintained her genial expression on the outside. Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang was rather surprised that Ming Di was able to let go of his 10,000-year grudge so quickly. It looked like the relationship between Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows went deeper than she thought. If it was anyone else who had locked Ming Di up, the dragon would have instantly swallowed the person up, no matter how much he tried to beg for mercy. Of course, this was what Yi Qingtang thought inwardly. But how could she have known the long history between Ming Di and the Holy Lord of Shadows? The many bloody battles they had fought alongside each other and the many years they had shared together. So much that as angry as Ming Di was about the Holy Lord imprisoning it, it never really hated him. It only begrudged the Holy Lord for not understanding its intentions. At the end of the day, Ming Di still possessed a pure and simple mind. 10,000 years might be a long time for most people, but it was not that unbearable to a demon dragon with a lengthy lifespan. Now that the Holy Lord of Shadows had finally seen the light and given in, it was natural for Ming Di to feel pleased that its partner had finally returned to its side. Just wait until I get out. I will reduce him to ashes. Ming Di snorted coldly. Looking at Ming Di's arrogant demeanor, Yi Qingtang couldn't help feeling a deep sense of respect for the Holy Lord of Shadows. How formidable she must be to have this demon dragon remain so loyal to her. Inside the Temple of Shadows, the leaders of the ancient clans were discussing how to convince Yi Qingtang to join in the battle. Meanwhile, Ming Wang was quietly observing everything. Suddenly, a huge tremor shook the entire Temple of Shadows. What's happening? The leaders were all shocked. Could it be that person is attacking us again? The leaders exchanged looks before immediately running out of the temple to see what the hell was happening. Ming Wang's expression turned grim. He could feel a familiar aura spreading rapidly through the earth beneath his feet. Holy Sun Ming Wang, what's happening? One of the clan leaders asked again. Ming Wang did not respond and only frowned in silence. Just as everyone was still feeling bewildered, a massive black figure suddenly burst out of the ground in front of the Temple of Shadows. With a sudden boom, a gigantic hole exploded from the ground in front of the Temple of Shadows. A huge black figure flew straight up into the air. It possessed a tremendously oppressive aura and everyone stared after it in a daze. In front of their eyes was a massive dragon spiraling up into the sky. The dragon was exceptionally large and covered the sun, casting the entire Temple of Shadows in the shadows. Chapter 1924, Unleash the Demon Dragon, 3. Indeed it was Yi Qingtang riding upon Ming Di's back. Her already slender figure looked even smaller in contrast to Ming Di's massive body. As she surveyed the ancient clans gathered down on the ground, all she saw was them staring at her with equally dumbstruck expressions. She immediately felt more steady. She only truly realized just how gigantic Ming Di was the moment she released it. She finally understood why the Holy Lord of Shadows had to construct such a vast abyss prison. Ming Di was huge. There was no way he could have been imprisoned in any place smaller. If Ming Di charged straight down, he would easily flatten the entire Temple of Shadows. Even more shocking was the fact that Ming Di's aura increased by more than tenfold after leaving the abyss prison. Are these the stupid tiny bugs who dared to belittle our Temple of Shadows? Ming Di surveyed the front of the Temple of Shadows with his blood-red eyes. It instantly spotted the tiny, ancient clan members. The faces of the tiny, ancient clan members immediately darkened on hearing Ming Di's words. What was going on? When did they ever belittle the Temple of Shadows? Utter nonsense. The hearts of everyone leaped in fright at the sight of Ming Di charging toward them with gaping jaws. It's not them. Yi Qingtang hurriedly corrected. She was worried that Ming Di would just swallow the whole bunch of them if she didn't quickly clarify. Whether or not it's them, they have to die anyway. I should just kill them off now. Ming Di didn't care whether they were the culprits. In its eyes, apart from the undead clan of the Temple of Shadows, all other living creatures in the mainland had to die. It was just a matter of sooner or later. It saw no issue with just killing them off now. Yi Qingtang was nearly driven mad by Ming Di's violent character. It really was an insane murderous monster. No wonder the Holy Lord of Shadows had to imprison this fellow. With such a character, it would be making enemies left and right for the Temple of Shadows. Ming Di continued to charge toward those ancient clan members as he spoke. Their faces turned from dark to pale in an instant. Holy Lord, we have no ill intentions at all. We would never dare to belittle the Temple of Shadows. We only have the highest respect for the Holy Lord's powers. Holy Lord, yes, yes, yes. Holy Lord, please be appeased. The ancient clan members had no idea what Yi Qingtang was saying to Ming Di. They only heard the dragon saying that he was going to kill them all, and so they immediately started to beg for mercy. They were here to seek help, not death. They can find the whereabouts of that person. Spare their lives for now so that they can provide us with information. With their mediocre abilities, we can kill them off anytime we want. Yi Qingtang understood Ming Di's character. Chapter 1925, The 8 Tribe Leaders, 1. Where is that person you mentioned earlier? I will kill him first. Having been imprisoned for over 10,000 years, Ming Di's murderous itch had been suppressed for far too long. It couldn't wait to go on a massacre. Its bloodlust could tolerate nothing less. Yi Qingtang was feeling exasperated by Ming Di's desperate urge to kill. She more or less understood now why the Holy Lord of Shadows had to imprison this fellow, its character. If this dragon had been unleashed in central mainland without any restrictions, it wouldn't take long before the undead clan was the only clan left on the mainland. I was just investigating his whereabouts. I believe that we will be able to locate him soon. Of course, Yi Qingtang acted as if she greatly approved of Ming Di's murderous rampage. Let them continue searching. I will not wait beyond 3 days. Ming Di's eyes turned toward the bunch of ancient clan members. The eyes of the fretful clan members instantly brightened at Ming Di's words. The Holy Lord is indeed benevolent. Don't worry, we will trace this person's whereabouts immediately. Yi Qingtang, you are all mistaken. Yi Qingtang felt a major headache coming on. She had released Ming Di to prevent the effeminate-looking youth from coming to the Temple of Shadows again. But now, Ming Di was openly seeking him out. Meanwhile, those ancient clan members seemed to have subconsciously overlooked the meaning of Ming Di's final words. I will not wait beyond 3 days. Ming Di planned to slaughter all the living creatures in central mainland. What were those fools so happy about? Did they think they were not included? Yi Qingtang felt very helpless. But on second thought, this might be better. First, have those ancient clan folks leave to try and locate that youth. If they failed, she would just have to find another excuse to hold Ming Di back. The ancient clan leaders had no idea what Yi Qingtang was thinking. They just took it to mean that the Holy Lord of Shadows was willing to help. Choosing to see it all as a sign of hope, they quickly ordered their men to go find information about the youth's whereabouts. Yi Qingtang found an excuse to get Ming Di to return to rest up before she returned to the Temple of Shadows. Just after Yi Qingtang had stabilized the earlier situation, the 8 tribe leaders hurried over on hearing that the Holy Lord of Shadows was back. Now they were gathered in one of the temple halls and stared at Ming Wang with heavy expressions. Since the Holy Lord's return, has she mentioned how to deal with the matter of the sacred ground of reflection? The Goblin tribe leader asked. In contrast to Ming Wang, who believed in Yi Qingtang's identity, the 8 tribe leaders continued to view this newly returned Holy Lord with suspicion. They just felt that although this Holy Lord looked the same, there were many differences in the way she handled things since her return. Nothing. Ming Wang spoke without any expression. His tone was perfunctory, as if he wasn't paying much attention. The 8 tribe leaders all noticed Ming Wang's strange behavior and exchanged looks. They knew very well that Ming Wang was completely loyal to the newly returned Holy Lord. It would be futile for them to try and probe for any information from Ming Wang. The situation at the sacred ground of reflection has been pretty chaotic. Since the Holy Lord was willing to form an alliance with the sacred ground of reflection, we should follow her orders on how to handle the matter. Where is the Holy Lord now? Will she have the time to meet us? The demon tribe leader asked. Also, I heard that the human who has been causing trouble in Central Mainland recently turned up at our Temple of Shadows. I wonder if the Holy Lord has said anything about that. Another of the tribe leaders piped up. Chapter 1926, The 8 Tribe Leaders, 2, Ming Wang lifted his eyes and gazed at the tribe leaders. The 8 tribe leaders believed in the mighty powers of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Since the Holy Lord went missing 10,000 years ago, the interactions between tribe leaders and the Temple of Shadows dropped significantly. Without the Holy Lord around, the temple was unable to keep the 8 tribe leaders in line. Even though he was the Holy Son of Shadows, this status alone was still not enough to stand up to the 8 tribe leaders. We will let you know if the Holy Lord of Shadows has any orders for you, Ming Wang said in a low voice. He would not tolerate any doubt toward the Holy Lord. Without waiting for a response from the 8 tribe leaders, Ming Wang got up. I will report your request to meet with the Holy Lord. Meanwhile, just await her orders. With that, Ming Wang turned and left. The 8 tribe leaders stared after Ming Wang's departing figure with dark expressions. That Ming Wang is nothing without the Holy Lord. The demon tribe leader sneered. No need to care about him. With the trouble brewing in the Central Mainland now, the Holy Lord will make the necessary arrangements. If not, I'm afraid this is not in line with the Holy Lord's character, the Goblin tribe leader said pointedly. It was not a coincidence that the 8 tribe leaders had all gathered here today. If the Holy Lord was genuine, they would naturally be satisfied and go along with everything. If not, they would never let off this impostor. Upon hearing that the 8 tribe leaders had come, Yi Qingtang gave an inward sigh. It was really one wave of trouble after another. Although the 8 tribe leaders appeared very humble and respectful, Yi Qingtang could feel that they were not completely convinced of her identity. If they had openly shown their doubts, Yi Qingtang could have immediately taken offense and punished all of them. But they were too politically correct, and as much as Yi Qingtang wanted to pinpoint some flaws in their behavior, she could find no concrete basis to do so. But now, Yi Qingtang turned slightly toward the gigantic Ming Di behind her. Those kids are still alive. Ming Di didn't even bat an eyelid. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Kids. Did Ming Di not know the definition of the word kid? It's been a long time since Ming Di and I have seen them. Just let them come, Yi Qingtang immediately ordered. Ming Wang glanced at Ming Di before turning to leave. Meanwhile, Ming Di picked up a burly demon with its massive claws and popped it into its mouth. Loud crunching noises ensued. If you hadn't stopped me then, I would have already swallowed that fellow. Who? Yi Qingtang was momentarily confused. Lifting one gigantic claw, Ming Di pointed in the direction where Ming Wang had disappeared. Yi Qingtang, are you really that bloodthirsty that you would even swallow your own people? I heard that it is very rare for the undead clan to have twins. I have never tasted one before. I say. Mo Yao, you promised me that after this central mainland situation is resolved, you will return to the second domain with me and help me capture a pair of undead twins so that I can have a taste. I have waited for so long now. After I finish off everyone in central mainland, if you can't find another pair of twins then, don't blame me for helping myself here. Ming Di smirked, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. No wonder she felt that Ming Wang was always looking at Ming Di with such a strange expression. It must be that Ming Di wanted to devour Ming Wang. Yi Qingtang finally understood. No matter what Ming Di felt towards the Holy Lord, it placed the lives of others in complete disregard. Even with the other people in the Temple of Shadows, it felt no sense of kinship to any one of them at all. Chapter 1927, The 8 Tribe Leaders, 3. It was no wonder that no one had taken Ming Di's side all the years since it had been sealed. That's right. Just as Yi Qingtang was struck speechless by Ming Di, the 8 tribe leaders had already rushed over after hearing the news. They didn't understand why the Holy Lord didn't want to meet them at the Grand Hall and instead chose to have them come all the way to the underground palace. All of them turned pale as the doors of the underground palace were pushed open. Ming Di. The 8 tribe leaders looked at the huge dragon beside Yi Qingtang as their faces filled with awe and surprise. Ming Di. The Holy Lord of Shadows steed. Having followed the Holy Lord of Shadows for so many years, they knew all too well about Ming Di's infamous reputation. But never in a million years would they have imagined that the sealed Ming Di would be released so suddenly. This went far beyond their imagination. The 8 tribe leaders who had gone there to test the Holy Lord of Shadows were all of a sudden stunned. They were met with the sight of Yi Qingtang leaning lazily on Ming Di's head as her gaze swept lightly across the 8 tribe leaders. A chill spread through the 8 tribe leaders' bones as Ming Di threw them an unsavory glance. They all subconsciously looked at Ming Wang, who was standing at the side. They wanted nothing more than to kill him right then. Why did he not inform them that Ming Di had been released? Ming Di's terrifying reputation was known not only in the central mainland but also in the Temple of Shadows. The Holy Lord of Shadows was known for her power and wisdom, but Ming Di was known for its cruelty. Even the members of the Temple of Shadows would be reduced to ashes if they upset Ming Di. It didn't care for anyone else other than the Holy Lord of Shadows. And what made it worse was that Ming Di was the only one in the entire Temple of Shadows which came close to the Holy Lord of Shadows' power. It could easily crush the 8 tribe leaders in the blink of an eye. Greetings, Holy Lord, Ming Di. The demon tribe leader quickly regained his wits and greeted them. The demon tribe leaders gazed towards Yi Qingtang and Ming Di was filled with horror and respect. All their suspicions towards Yi Qingtang's identity had instantly vanished on seeing Ming Di. After all, the Holy Lord of Shadows was the one who had personally sealed Ming Di away all those years today. Who else could undo the seal? Furthermore, who else would dare stand on Ming Di's head if not the Holy Lord of Shadows? Their suspicions all vanished into thin air as they stood before Ming Di. The other tribe leaders all quickly came to their senses as they heard the demon tribe leaders' greetings and all suppressed their fear to greet them politely. Chapter 1928, The Return, 1. The reactions of the 8 tribe leaders were not exactly positive. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but think that everyone in the Temple of Shadows had probably been celebrating after Ming Di was sealed. What is it? Yi Qingtang suppressed the curiosity in her heart and asked lightly. The 8 tribe leaders were all extremely respectful now, with no intention of testing her again. Holy Lord, there has been a lot of activity in the sacred ground of reflection today. We are not sure of the Holy Lord's intentions and wanted to ask for advice, the demon tribe leader said cautiously. The sacred ground of reflection. Yi Qingtang was stunned for a little while before remembering it. Ling Yan's problem had dragged both the Temple of Shadows and the sacred ground of reflection in previously, but Yi Qingtang hadn't paid much attention to it. After all, to her, the most important thing to deal with right now was that youth. Do you really need me to tell you how to deal with something so small? Yi Qingtang said as she lifted her eyes lightly. The 8 tribe leaders stood in stunned silence as their expression became awkward. They had originally wanted to use this to test Yi Qingtang's identity, but now that Ming Di had been released, what else was left for them to determine? Seeking guidance on this matter would only show how limited their abilities were. We seek your forgiveness, Holy Lord. We are the ones who are weak. Yi Qingtang waved her hand dismissively. She had already achieved her goal of alleviating the 8 tribe leaders' suspicions. Just as Yi Qingtang was thinking about whether Ming Di would be powerful enough, news came from the ancient clans. In the time since they had last seen that youth, he had wiped out a few other ancient clans. They had all been slaughtered when the news had reached the ancient clans, with no trace of the boy left. The clan leaders were all worried sick when they heard this, afraid that they would be his next target. Those who had been sent out were all finding all sorts of excuses and trying their best to stay in the Temple of Shadows. This was the first time Yi Qingtang was witnessing the ancient clan's shamelessness, and she was honestly impressed by it. As more and more ancient clans in the mainland were attacked, the ancient clans who had heard the news had all come running to the Temple of Shadows to hide. It was not surprising since the Temple of Shadows was the only place the youth had suffered a setback and was their last hope. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched as she saw how many ancient clans were running to them for shelter. Where was their pride? Where was the strong foundation that they had built? Were they not embarrassed by themselves? Now that they had confirmed her identity, the 8 tribe leaders were willing to follow all of Yi Qingtang's orders.